Then the History Channel fired Rick Dale from his own show and never told him why.no scandal. No ratings collapse. No warning, just a tearful video message where a man who had built one of television's most beloved programs sat in front of a camera fighting back tears and admitted he still didn't understand what happened. One of the things that I wish you would do is get on American Restoration website and tell them how you feel too, because I think it's important for everybody to know how we all feel. Within 13 episodes, the replacement format destroyed everything. The show was cancelled. Rick's shop eventually closed. And one of cable television's greatest success stories became a cautionary tale about what happens when networks forget why people actually watch. This is the heartbreaking truth behind American Restoration's sudden end and the gamble that cost the History Channel one of its biggest hits, the family that made it work for 6 seasons. American Restoration didn't rely on shouting matches or manufactured drama. It didn't need fake conflicts or scripted confrontations. Instead, it thrived on patience, craftsmanship, and the quiet satisfaction of watching something broken become whole again. Rick, how did you refinish the wood to make it look so? Well, when this thing came in, it was raw wood and it was very, very grainy. We probably got 10 different coats of primer on there and you had to sand each coat, and then we ended up shooting it with black and then we shot it with clear. In a television landscape dominated by chaos, the show offered something refreshingly different: authenticity. Rick's shop wasn't a polished operation designed for cameras. It felt lived in, cluttered, stressful, and genuinely personal. His wife Kelly handled payroll, managed budgets, dealt with demanding clients who expected miracles on impossible deadlines, and somehow held everything together when projects ran late and tempers flared. His brother Ron picked through junkyards and estate sales across Nevada, hunting for hidden gems that nobody else could see value in. His stepson Brett lay, affectionately labeled the village idiot by the crew, got stuck with the tedious work nobody else wanted: sandblasting rust, disposing of beehives, handling the unglamorous jobs that required more patience than skill. Ron even invented a term for the safest technique in the shop: Brettley-proof. And then there was Tyler. Rick's son had been helping in the shop since he was 2 years old. By his teenage years, he demonstrated real talent for the craft. But he also had a more relaxed attitude than his demanding father, which created genuine tension on camera that viewers connected with. Tyler came up with the idea of taking out the motor mount and we ended up lowering it. The wheels and tires and everything on it are race tires. They stick to the ground. They got sort of slicks on them. In one memorable episode, Rick handed Tyler a critical paint matching job on a vintage Coca-Cola machine worth thousands of dollars. Tyler rushed through it, misread the color codes, and the first coat came out 3 shades too bright. The client was already impatient. The deadline was already dangerously tight. Rather than explode, Rick walked him through the fix step by step, not as a television moment manufactured for drama, but as a father teaching his son that shortcuts always cost more. In the end.it was the kind of scene that explained why millions of viewers kept coming back week after week. They weren't watching for spectacle. They were watching for connection. This wasn't reality television in the traditional sense. Viewers weren't just watching items being repaired. They were watching a family business survive under real pressure: arguments over budgets, missed deadlines that threatened relationships with clients, small victories earned through sweat and stubbornness. That authenticity made every restoration feel deeply personal, like the audience had a stake in whether the project succeeded or failed, which makes what happened after season 6 so difficult to understand. The silence that said everything. Season 6 ended in 2014 without any hint of trouble on the horizon. Ratings were still strong, holding steady in the millions. The fan base was loyal and passionately engaged. The show remained one of the History Channel's most recognizable brands, spawning merchandise, shop tours, and celebrity appearances from musicians like Billy Joel, Sammy Hagar, and Jason Mraz. Then 2015 came and went without a single update. No trailers appeared. No production announcements were made. No official reason was given. The silence felt increasingly unsettling for a show that had never struggled for attention or viewers. Well, Rick, I'm very, very impressed. It looks fantastic. You can't tell it from any of the other ones. I just thought there's no way you're going to be able to pull this off. But yeah, fantastic job. When American Restoration finally returned in January 2016, everything had changed. Rick Dale was gone. His family was gone. His shop was gone. The cluttered Las Vegas yard that fans had come to know over 6 years had vanished entirely from the screen without explanation. In their place was a radically different format featuring 5 unrelated restoration businesses scattered across the country: Boyd Coddington's custom hot rod shop in Sun Valley, California; Dale Waxler's Wheels Through Time motorcycle museum in Maggie Valley, North Carolina; Andy Bowman Jr. S. Monkey Business; Steve Hale's Steve's Restorations and Hot Rods; Bob Holliday's Bob's Garage. The show cut rapidly between all 5 locations in every episode, leaving no time for storytelling, no room to build relationships with any of the new personalities, and no emotional investment in any single restoration project. Instead of depth, viewers got disorienting fragmentation. Most telling of all, none of those shops belonged to Rick's Restorations. The very business that had built the show's identity from the beginning had been erased entirely, as if 6 seasons of history meant nothing at all. Rick didn't step away voluntarily. He was fired. And not just him, his entire family as well. The decision reportedly came as a complete shock to everyone involved, and no clear explanation was ever provided by the network. No public dispute surfaced. No scandal emerged. No documented ratings decline existed to justify such a dramatic move. By every visible metric, the show was still working beautifully. I'm very good, very excellent in finding, up things, especially on bicycles. Let's see it. How long, Cassidy? Yeah, those are awesome, man. Absolutely. Those are perfect. Which raises the uncomfortable question at the heart of this story: why would a network deliberately remove the very people who made it successful? What Rick said when the cameras were gone. Shortly after his removal became public, Rick released a video message addressed directly to fans. It remains one of the most quietly devastating moments in reality television history, not because of anger, but because of heartbreaking confusion. His voice wavered throughout. His eyes struggled to stay composed. At several points, he appeared to be fighting back tears as he thanked viewers for their years of unwavering loyalty and support. I want to thank all my fans that are out there right now. Good one. I truly love you as much as what I'm hearing. I've had so many of you reach out asking what happened, he said, pausing to collect himself. I wish I had answers for you. I really do. But I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, this wasn't my decision. I would have kept doing this show forever if they'd let me. He paused again, visibly struggling with emotion. There will only be one Rick's Restorations, and that is American Restoration. That's something nobody can take away from us. Then came the moment that said everything without saying anything at all. Rick encouraged viewers to visit the show's official website and voice their concerns directly to the network. On the surface, it sounded like a polite call for feedback. Beneath that calm request was something far more pointed, a subtle reminder that American Restoration wasn't just a concept or a brand. It was a relationship between the audience and the people they had invited into their homes for 6 years. A fan even launched a petition demanding the network bring Rick back. It gathered signatures, generated attention across social media, but ultimately nothing came of it. The History Channel remained completely silent, offering no response whatsoever. Rather than attacking producers or leaking damaging information to the press, Rick let the audience speak for him. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. Seeing how it transformed from this pile of scrap metal to what it is now is just something that I will never forget. Okay. Can I hug you? Thank you. You got it. And in doing so, he revealed just how confident he was that viewers cared about him and his family more than the network seemed to believe. He was absolutely right. The collapse. The reaction to season 7 was immediate and brutal. Within the first month, viewership dropped by more than 40% from previous seasons. Online forums and social media platforms exploded with confusion, frustration, and bitter disappointment. Longtime fans who had watched every episode of the original run expressed outrage at the sudden changes. The new format felt rushed and impersonal, more like a compilation reel than a cohesive narrative. There was no time to care about any single restoration because the show never stayed in one place long enough to build emotional investment. Viewers felt betrayed. The format change wasn't framed as an expansion or evolution. It felt like a wholesale replacement, a deliberate eraser of everything that had made the show special. And without Rick and his family providing an emotional anchor, the show no longer had a recognizable heart, just a familiar name attached to something completely unrecognizable. All 13 episodes of season 7 aired. None were renewed for another season. The History Channel had made a critical miscalculation. It assumed the audience was loyal to the brand when they were actually loyal to the people. As the season struggled, there was no attempt to course correct, no effort to bring Rick back and admit the mistake, no acknowledgement whatsoever that the gamble had failed spectacularly. The network allowed the season to play out quietly. And once it ended, American Restoration was simply cancelled without ceremony. No farewell episode. No reunion special. No explanation offered to fans who had supported the show for half a decade. Ironically, the very decision meant to extend the life of American Restoration became the reason it died. In trying to prove that Rick Dale was not essential, the network proved exactly the opposite. What remained after the lights went out for Rick and his family, the end of American Restoration, wasn't just the loss of a television platform. It was the sudden removal of a public identity they had lived inside for years, one that blurred the line between business, family, and entertainment in ways that were difficult to untangle. That means I get an A, right? You wish. Good one. When I first dropped it off, it was just a piece of metal that would belong to my granddad. Now I could hang it up on the wall next to my kids' bikes and could really become part of the family again. Good job. I'm proud of you. Rick's Restorations, the Las Vegas shop that anchored the first 6 seasons, was a real business long before the cameras ever arrived. For years after the show ended, it continued operating under the weight of its own fame, with fans traveling from across the country hoping to catch a glimpse of the place they had watched on television. The mayor of Las Vegas even declared October 17, 2015, as Rick's Restoration's Day in the city, but over time, the shop's public presence faded without the promotional engine of weekly episodes. The workload slowed considerably. Eventually, the doors closed. Not because of Rick's failure or lack of skill, but because of the television exposure that had been ripped away without warning. Without the History Channel, Rick returned to something closer to the life he had before fame, staying active through social media, engaging directly with fans, and launching a new venture with Kelly called My Best Font Forward Creations, specializing in custom laser-cut metal art and embroidery. He even wrote a book called Classic Soda Machines, proving his passion for vintage Americana never disappeared. Kelly transitioned into real estate. Tyler and Bretley continued working in restoration-related fields, building careers outside the shadow of the cancelled show. What's striking about this chapter isn't bitterness, it's quiet adaptation. Despite being removed from a series that bore his fingerprints at every level, Rick never publicly attacked the network, never released tell-all interviews, never leveraged fan outrage into controversy or lawsuits. He let the show's failure without him speak on its own, and it did. The lesson written in silence. The collapse of Season 7 became a case study in what happens when television executives confuse format with connection. When they assume the wrapper matters more than what's inside. American Restoration had strong numbers, international reach, and proven longevity. But its heart was never interchangeable. The appeal was never just about fixing old objects. It was about watching a craftsman who genuinely cared. A family that argued and laughed and made mistakes together. A shop that felt lived in rather than staged for cameras. Those essential elements can't be replicated by simply switching locations or multiplying storylines. They have to be earned over years of consistent connection with an audience. The real reason American Restoration ended wasn't declining interest in restoration content or programming. It wasn't a behind-the-scenes scandal. It wasn't the sudden irrelevance of its star. It ended because the show forgot what actually made it work, replacing authenticity with scalability, personality with process in a desperate gamble that assumed viewers were loyal to a logo rather than a story about real people. That assumption cost the network one of its most successful and genuinely beloved reality programs. For fans, the ending still feels painfully unfinished. Not because the show deserved endless seasons, but because it deserved basic honesty, an explanation, a proper farewell that recognized the role Rick Dale and his family played in making restoration television genuinely compelling in the first place. Rick Dale didn't lose his relevance. The show lost its soul. While Anthony draws up the plans for how we'll convert everything, I'll have to call the customers and make sure they're okay with us turning it into a digital photo booth. And when the lights finally went out on American Restoration, what remained wasn't mystery or scandal, just a clear and painful lesson written in ratings, corporate silence, and a loyal fan base that quietly walked away from something they once loved. Sometimes the biggest mistakes in television aren't creative failures. They're failures to recognize what was working in the first place. American Restoration didn't need reinvention. It needed respect, and in the end, neither the network nor the show ever recovered from that fundamental misunderstanding. Do you think the network made a mistake that can never be undone, or was Rick's time simply over? Tell us in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more untold stories behind the shows you thought you knew.